0 viewers. हेलो, नमस्कार, मेरा नाम ध्रुव गुप्ता है, ध्रुव माथुर गुप्ता। मैं फाउंडर हूँ SayaCare का। एंड आज हम इस SayaConnect वेबिनार पे हम इस क्वेश्चन के ऊपर डिस्कशन कर रहे होंगे, इज इन्फ्लुएंसर टेस्टिंग रियली क्रेडिबल। आज हमारे साथ डॉक्टर राजेश्वरी पिल्ले आ रही हैं एंड उनके लिए थोड़ा टेक्निकल डिफिकल्टी है, सो लेट्स check कि क्या हो रहा है। Just give it a few minutes. We'll wait for people to come in, और फिर हम शुरू करते हैं। अगर किसी के पास कोई क्वेश्चन है, हम सीधे क्वेश्चन के साथ शुरू कर सकते हैं। कोई भी कुछ भी पूछ सकता है। Anyone want to ask anything about SayaCare, testing, quality, medicine? किसी भी चीज के बारे में बात कर सकते हैं। ओके, आई थिंक कुछ टेक्निकल डिफिकल्टी आ रहा है, तो मैं शुरू कर देता हूँ। ओके, तो आज we'll talk about कि पहले इश्यूज क्या है हमारे सिस्टम में। तो अगर कोई न्यूज़ देखता है, oh here we've got Dr. Rajeshwari here, so let me add her in. Hi Dr. Rajeshwari.
Hi Drew, how are you?
Good. ठीक है. Let's get going. So as I just had started out, so I was saying कि what's the main problem in our ecosystem जो हिंदुस्तान में चीजें मिलते हैं। तो अगर आप न्यूज़ देखते हैं या आप कुछ खरीदते हैं मार्केट में, या आप ट्विटर पे हैं या इंस्टाग्राम पे हैं, तो आपने सबने देखा होगा कि केसेस आते रहते हैं कि दूध में मिलावट है, हनी में कुछ अडल्टरेंट है, पनीर नकली है, और सेम चीज़ दवाइयों के साथ भी होती रहती है। वो सी की बहुत सारे दवाइयाँ, अभी आज एक न्यूज़ आया था कि जीरकपुर में एक फैक्ट्री बस्ट हुई थी जिसमें काफ़ी सारे नकली दवाइयाँ बन रहे थे, नकली कॉस्मेटिक्स बन रहे थे, नकली डिटर्जेंट बन रहे थे। एंड ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है। एंड वो दवाइयाँ वी डोंट नो एग्जैक्टली कितने फेक हैं, देयर इज नो रियल वे टू टेस्ट, बट द एस्टिमेट्स रेंज फ्रॉम अराउंड 5 to 25%. I generally think around 20% are fake, but वो तो आपके ऊपर है कि आप कैसे देखते हो, कैसे टेस्टिंग सैंपल करते हो, क्या करता है। और ये बहुत बड़ी इशू है क्योंकि हिंदुस्तानी यूजुअली 62 to 69% उनका हेल्थ केयर एक्सपेंडिचर दवाइयों में खर्च करते हैं। तो इस देश में हमारे पास बहुत सारे इश्यूज हैं दवाइयों नकली होने में एंड चीजें नकली होने में। तो फिर लोग क्या करते हैं कि what we've gotten used to is कभी-कभी इन्फ्लुएंसर्स आते हैं। You have people who on Instagram, on Twitter, on कोई भी प्लेटफॉर्म पे वो बताते हैं कि हमने ये टेस्ट किया और ये नकली आया। The biggest examples of this are Trustify, then you have जो अभी liver dog के साथ होता है, and then also हमारे पास ये नितिन जोशी है। तो अभी इन तीनों का स्कीम के बारे में अभी थोड़ा बात करते हैं। We'll continue forward here. So today I want to bring up कि commonly counterfeited branded medicine होते हैं. So these are some of the top brands of the country: Janumet, Allegra, Cardace, Amaryl, Losartan, Esiflo, Budate, Budamate. अगर आप दवाई लेते हैं तो आपको शायद दिखा होगा कि ये सारे, I mean, these are very common brands. आपके डॉक्टर ने बहुत आसानी से ये लिख सकते हैं. And the thing about जो नकली दवाई बनाते हैं, they always target the most commonly written brands. तो जैसे Janumet है and Cardace, these have been very commonly found. जो भी नकली दवा बना रहा है वो इन्हीं को बनाता रहता है, क्योंकि उनका जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कॉस्ट है वो काफ़ी कम है और जिस प्राइस पे वो बेच सकते हैं वो काफ़ी हाई है, और वो तो एक पूरी दूसरी अदर कहानी है। तो उनको पता है कि हम बना सकते हैं, उसके लेबल में चिपका सकते हैं और फिर हम बेच सकते हैं। And it's a big issue क्योंकि अगर वो असली मैन्युफैक्चरर नहीं है तो वो कुछ भी डाल सकते हैं और उनका कुछ कॉन्सिक्वेंस भी नहीं होता अगर कोई किसी को कुछ हो जाता है, क्योंकि अगर मैंने असली दवा असली मैन्युफैक्चरर से ली दवा, उसको खाई और कोई दिक्कत हुई तो फिर तो मैं कंप्लेन कर सकता हूँ और बोल सकता हूँ कि ये मैन्युफैक्चरर क्या बना रहा है। मगर अगर काउंटरफिट मेडिकेशन है तो उसको क्यों जिम्मेदारी लेनी है, कोई तरीका ही नहीं है उनको ट्रेस बैक करने के लिए कि ये कैसे हुआ। So this is it's a very common issue that occurs. Um, Dr. Rajeshwari, have you ever come across counterfeit branded medicine? कोई spurious
I
medicine आपने कभी देखा?
actually counterfeited medicines, yes. Branded, rarely, but then like you said, कि ये बहुत ज़्यादा common problem हो चुका है because जो there are so many people, right, and nobody to regulate them. जो basic pharmacy भी जानता हो, it's very easy for them to make their own counterparts, to make their own counterfeits, and again there is nobody to regulate them, there is nobody to monitor them, there is nobody to see कि जो दवाइयों का कंपोनेंट है वो किसी गलत हाथ में नहीं जा रहा है या वो किसी ऐसे इंसान के हाथ में नहीं जा रहा है जो who has half knowledge, who doesn't really know about the side effects. So I have treated patients who have had problems because of these medicines, like ये जो counterfeited medicines की आप बात कर रहे हैं अंशु, उसके कारण बहुत ज़्यादा अफेक्ट होता है हमारा लिवर और किडनी. So I have treated patients who have had liver issues because of these medicines.
Mhm. Yes, it's an issue. Okay, let's continue onwards. So we'll first talk about the two cases that we're going to bring up are the liver doc case and the Nitin Joshi sunscreen test. So the liver doc, he just analyzed around 131 medicines across various generic companies, and then he also got it from some branded generics. So out of this list that we have over here, and he found that all of them passed. हमने बस सब सारे Indian Pharmacopoeia पे टेस्ट किया था. We found out the lab that he tested at was Eureka Analytical Services Private Limited, and then उनका ये कहना था कि सारे के सारे दवा पास हुई हैं. अब इनको देख के I have a bunch of concerns about this study. The reasons I have a concern about this study is mostly because जो influencer testing होती है, it's so कि जो भी सबसे loud हो सकता है and not necessarily जो सबसे correct हो सकता है. And that's generally a problem we see with all social media, कि जो सबसे loud होता है, जिनके पास सबसे अच्छा distribution होता है, वो अपना message फैला सकते हैं. And the issues I have with this study are basically there are 2-3 main issues. पहला तो है कि जितना हमने खर्च किया वो मेरे हिसाब से मैच नहीं करता है. इन्होंने 20 लाख खर्च किया 131 ड्रग्स पे. I don't think it should have taken any more than 10 lakh to 8 lakh. तो मुझको वहाँ पे already थोड़ा suspicious है. दूसरी चीज़ है कि जो उनका analysis से आया था कि we would get 131 drugs, all of them are equal quality. They didn't have any power analysis conducted. तो आप एक statistical analysis करने से पहले, like before you do any study, you do a power analysis to figure out कितने samples करने होते हैं. It's a very common practice in any academic paper. Like if we've just applied for an IRB approval for a glycemic index study, and one of the things we had to do was show कि हमारा sample size हमको लग रहा है कि 15 लोग ठीक हैं. And if we don't do that, then they wouldn't grant the study, क्योंकि जो claims हम बनाएंगे, like जो वहाँ पे डॉक्टर बैठे हुए थे हमको जज करने के लिए, he's saying कि अगर आपके claims बहुत ही negative हुए हैं या बहुत ही prominent हुए तो वो मीडिया में फैल जाएंगे, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're valid. तो फिर हमको दिखाना था कि we have chosen the right sample size ताकि वो लोग actually scientifically valid हो जाए. It's really easy to do any single one test and बोलो कि ये clean chit है या ये गंदा chit है, and then लोग बोलेंगे कि हाँ ये सही दवा है या ये नकली दवा है. But if I have hundreds and thousands of batches that I'm making, or even hundreds of samples, then it doesn't really mean anything if I just do one test. Similarly, जैसे liver doc ने ये किया था, he tested I think around 21 samples of Janaushadhi and he cleared all of them. And then he said कि अब Janaushadhi तो एकदम clear है. Now this completely ignored जो Trustified ने अभी test किया था approximately 2 months ago, जिसमें वहां से निकला था कि एक Janaushadhi का multivitamin fail हुआ था. And then it also ignores कि पिछले 5 साल में there have been over 200 samples of Janoshti which have failed and have had drug inspectors send notices to them. He completely ignores all the history and he presents the information and the test he's done right now as being completely valid. और इनका जो reach है और इनका जो fame है ये काफी high है. Like people know of the liver doc, at least जो Twitter पे जाते हैं और शायद कोई लोग Instagram पे भी जाते हैं. So it becomes a way for him. He can easily spread a message and no one will particularly question कि क्या है. और ये बहुत common है हिंदुस्तान में. कोई बंदा आता है और बहुत जोर से बोलता रहता है और सब उसको मान लेते हैं. So it becomes a big problem in that particular sense. As to there's one other aspect I'd put up here, and that is laboratories and how they actually report failed tests. So the most labs that I've talked to never want to ever mark a medicine as failing. The reason that they don't want to mark a medicine as failing is because their business gets destroyed that way. जब आप एक दवा को mark करोगे as failing, then you have to send a report to the government. The moment you send a report to the government, drug inspectors, very corrupt drug inspectors, will go and approach the company and be like, how did this fail? How did it not fail? And they'll basically pressurize the company and extort money out of them. So what I've seen most labs do is that whenever a medicine fails, they'll tell the company कि आपका दवाई यहाँ fail हुआ है, but they won't actually publish the report. They'll just leave it or they'll say कि ये एक sample batch था. And 99% of labs across the country do this. Because when labs actually did report properly, and especially with the government testing, if you're testing government medicine or वहाँ पे आपका, or and it's something tied up to like let's say Modi ji, or it's tied up to the ministry, or it's tied up to anyone जो आपको हमला कर सकता है, वहाँ पे उनको बिल्कुल भी नहीं रिपोर्ट करना है. उनको नहीं रिपोर्ट करना है क्योंकि अगर उन्होंने काफी ज्यादा नेगेटिवली कुछ दिखाया या बोला, then it's used against them. So we've had instances in 2014 जहाँ पे they tested a few things out जो Indian government का lab produce कर रहा था, and the lab published all of those, and then the government shortly thereafter stripped them of all their licenses and basically used it against them. So वहाँ पे जो truth का जो हिस्सा है कि आप कितना brave हो, वो बहुत ही कम है when it comes to the government. And then जब वो दूसरा point है कि जो आपके businesses हैं जिसमें आपको इतना डर नहीं है कि मैं इनका टेस्ट किया और फेल किया, वहां पे आपका business चला जाता है. So on both ways, the labs are very scared to test both the government or say negative about the government quality, because that will destroy. वो अगर government गुस्सा हो गया तो उनका पूरा जो licensing control है वो पूरा हटा देंगे. And then for businesses, if they say anything there and make it public, तो पहले business परेशान हो जाएगा और फिर उनका business चला जाएगा. It becomes extremely difficult to do this. And I guess that goes to another point about the liver doc study itself. He's the Dr. Cyril. I think he's a liver doc, right? उनको क्या बोलते हैं? Hepatologist? Gastroenterologist, yes. So he, like Dr. Rajeshwari, you as a doctor, you know a lot more than I do about how the body works and all of these particular things, right? Like I'm just particularly interested. जब मेरा नाना जी बहुत बीमार थे, then I'd learn about it, but I can't compete because you've done 5 years of research, you've done MBBS, you've treated so many patients, you have intense amount of knowledge about it. And then what happens is you have an individual, like the liver doc has intense knowledge about the liver. I'm 100% certain about that. But then he'll come around and then he'll also talk about testing, जहाँ पे ये सारे जो nuances होते हैं टेस्टिंग में, तो वो छूटी जाते हैं and वो आगे बढ़ा देते हैं एक particular point. Yeah, and I guess that's it. Do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, actually, so this is a very interesting take that you had on his testing. मैं details में नहीं जा सकती regarding the testing procedures because you are much more aware of all the procedures and everything, and it was very brave of you to speak out like this. Just वो चिट्टे खोल देना. It was very brave of you to say something like that. But as a doctor, how I see this is him trying to compare generic medicines, which are basically like जो non-branded medicines है, compared with its branded counterparts, right?
Mhm.
So, as a doctor, all of us know that generic medicines are much more affordable as compared to the branded counterparts.
Mhm.
But इसमें दिक्कत ये आ जाती है, like he says that generic medicines are safe and they're equally effective, but that is not always a case 100%. Like it's never 100% true. There's always like a loophole that might happen. there's ऑलवेज भले ही 2% चांस हो भले ही 5% चांस हो ऐसा कोई चांस हो सकता है कि जेनेरिक मेडिसिन में जो इम्प्योरिटीज रह जाती है या जो उनकी इफेक्टिवनेस होती है वो कम हो जाए या इम्प्योरिटीज रह जाए जिसके कारण देयर कैन बी ह्यूज साइड इफेक्ट्स लाइक outgrown side effects, very big side effects. अब बात ये हो जाती है एज अ डॉक्टर इफ आई एम प्रिस्क्राइबिंग जेनेरिक मेडिसिन राइट अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं बस अजीथ्रोमाइसिन लिख दूं मैं उसका ब्रांड नेम नहीं लिखूं अजीथ्रोमाइसिन इज जेनेरिक मैं केवल वो लिख दूं मेरा जो पेशेंट होगा मेरा पर्ची लेके किसी भी फार्मेसी में चला जाएगा या कहीं पे भी चला जाएगा वेयर टू थिंग्स कैन हैपन एक तो फार्मेसी वाला उसको ब्रांडेड वर्जन दे देगा उसको समझ में ही नहीं आएगा कि भाई जेनेरिक दिया या ब्रांडेड दिया तो पैसे तो वैसे ही चले गए दूसरा इफ ही डज गिव द जेनेरिक मेडिसिन आई डोंट नो व्हाट द सोर्स इज I don't know if those medicines have proper drugs or if they have proper combinations. जिसके कारण suppose by like there are very less chances of that happening but suppose patient को कुछ हो जाता है I become the scapegoat. It comes down to अरे डॉक्टर ने सही से दवाई नहीं दी है इनको कैसे नहीं पता so there's also this now I don't want to like it's a little controversial actually but again this is a doctor's point of view that I'm giving so there was this case that happened in Madhya Pradesh your team has also covered it regarding cough syrup right DEG पाया गया था वो cough syrup में तो मैं उसके डिटेल्स में नहीं जाना चाहूंगी बट देन लाइक ऑल ऑफ अस सॉ end may it boil down to how did the doctor prescribe now I'm not saying he was wrong or he's right I am not taking his side I'm not saying whether he should have done what he did but then as a doctor it is nearly impossible for me to understand कि जो medicines मैं prescribe कर रही हूँ वो अच्छे quality के है या नहीं है when it comes down to generic medicines unless I know the source of course बट अगर सिर्फ इफेक्टिवनेस की बात की जाए तो थियोरेटिकली यस बट नाउ दैट यू हैव सेड कि नई लैब टेस्टिंग में भी इतने सारे प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकते हैं एंड देन लैब्स आर आल्सो नॉट वेरी ट्रांसपेरेंट अबाउट इट सो दैट गेट्स मी इवन मोर डाउटफुल वेदर unless I know the source how can I prescribe generic medicines so that is like my point of view regarding this entire scenario that happened.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, additionally, there are issues जो होते हैं कि जो आप brand भी लिखोगे वो भी counterfeit हो गया. So then there's no guarantee there either. और फिर
Exactly.
जो आपके जो brands भी होते हैं, like you have big companies like Sun Pharma, Cipla, all of these companies have also been shown to fail. So a lot of them outsource a lot of their manufacturing to all the same companies that fail for everyone. So it becomes kind of, I mean, you're trying to lower the risk कि किसी को कुछ ऐसे कुछ हो नहीं मगर फिर भी कुछ भी हो सकता है so it become and who gets blamed the doctor so I think that
So there's no
happened right like
regulation for it. There's no proper body who would regulate all these problems, who would actually monitor everything that is going. Like, अगर कोई complaint lodge होती है regarding any product, the first
mm,
person under the blame is the doctor. So rather, which is fine. बहुत बार गलतियां हो सकती है आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि डॉक्टर्स की गलती नहीं होती बट आई एम
mm,
सेइंग हाउ अबाउट वी गो बैक टू द प्रोसेस वी ट्रैक डाउन किसकी गलती हुई है कैसे हुई है एंड देन लाइक यू सेड ऑल ऑफ दीज आर वेरी बिग कंपनीज with a lot of money they don't get blamed they know how to
mm,
get out of it but the people who are suffering whether it's the patient the doctor the pharmacist ये सारे अटक के रह जाते हैं फिर क्योंकि इनके पास तो पैसा होता नहीं है निकलने के लिए
yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So this was Nitin Joshi. आपने शायद थोड़े महीने पहले देखे होंगे कि थोड़े वीडियो आए थे कि सनस्क्रीन स्कैम एक्सपोज जिसमें नितिन जोशी ने काफी सारे सनस्क्रीन को इन विट्रो टेस्ट किया था. इन विट्रो का मतलब है कि दे बेसिकली पुट इट ऑन सम ग्लास पैनल्स और वहाँ पे एक स्कैन किया था कि कितना लाइट वेव जा रहा है उसके थ्रू उसको मेजरमेंट किया था कि उसका एम्पलीट्यूड कितना है और वेवलेंथ कितना है, और उस हिसाब से उन्होंने बोला था कि अच्छा सनस्क्रीन इतना SPF था। Now इस issue में क्या हुआ था कि I think he tested around 8-9 products and out of them 6 failed, और काफी तो वो सब SPF 50 बोले थे, and some of them were as low in his testing as SPF 4. अब इसमें काफी सारे दिक्कत दिखे थे when he actually did the test. I mean, how accurate they were, maybe a lot of them failed. But point था कि he did it through in vitro testing, which isn't actually considered कि कैसे आपको टेस्ट करना चाहिए. The way you're actually supposed to do SPF testing, जो हम प्लान कर रहे हैं थोड़े समय में, is कि आप 10 लोग को लोगे, उन पे आप थोड़ा सा सनस्क्रीन लगाओगे, and then you'll shine a UV light progressively longer, stronger and stronger and stronger until थोड़ा सा redness appear करेगा. It's at that strength of UV light जब वो strong हो जाता है, that will be what determines the SPF level. And that's considered the gold standard. मतलब कि उसी तरीके से SPF करना है. Additionally, before he even launched the video, you saw tons of influencers all through Instagram getting messages कि आप ये एक वीडियो बनाओ इसके कंटेंट पे, ये आपका फॉर्मेट है और हम आपको इतना पैसा दे देंगे. So before he even launched the video, before the results were even out, he was already telling people कि आप इसको promote करो. And then the companies that passed, all of them belong to one particular parent company.
True. Oh, I guess it's just me for now.
Okay. And then the presentation went as well. Okay, ठीक है.
We're back.
Yep. Let's go back to the beginning here. So basically this was the particular issue. In fact, we saw the same issue of a push narrative with the liver doc study as well. Before the moment he launched his study, within 12 hours, आपने बहुत सारे videos Instagram पे देख लिए होंगे, well edited, जिसमें वही study को reference कर रहे हैं. And this usually goes back to something I call it's a push narrative. I used to work at a think tank with Dr. Shamika Ravi, who's a member of the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council. तो वहाँ पे हमको सिखाता था कि नैरेटिव कैसे पुश करो. नैरेटिव मतलब कि अगर कुछ पॉलिसी बनानी है, you need to get a large consensus of जो decision makers हैं कि वो इसको agree करें. So you push out an idea, you pay 100 people to tweet, and then they'd all make videos all at the same time. और जो कॉमन इंसान है वो इंस्टाग्राम ट्विटर जो भी खोला हुआ है वो देख रहा है और देख रहा है कि यार सब लोग बात कर रहे हैं, ये तो वायरल कॉन्सेप्ट हो गया. But in actuality कुछ वायरल तो नहीं था. I mean, it was not actually any actual virality. It was just a paid push. And ये इसके साथ काफी आसानी से दिखा है. You saw it slightly here as well. And it goes into the question of integrity when you're actually doing this testing. तो अगर कोई बंदा ये करता है and they aren't actually coming with integrity, तो फिर what is the exact point of it, of the testing? I guess that's my point. Do you have anything to add here?
I completely agree. When it comes to influencers and them pushing medical stuff, I guess without, I wouldn't say that it's without knowledge. I guess mostly it is to do with half knowledge. But then yes, when it comes to influencers doing medical things and just pushing medical stuff, it's an ick. It's like a trigger that happens. क्योंकि बहुत सारी बार ऐसा होता है that they don't really know the entirety of it. और जितना आपने जैसे यू सेड कि उन्होंने केवल इन विट्रो ट्राई किया था, इन विवो ट्राई नहीं किया था. सनस्क्रीन कम्स ऑन द स्क्रीन, sunscreen comes on our skin. That again determines the quality of SPF and how your skin is going to absorb it. And there are a lot of other factors. You can't just put it on a glass slide and say कि नहीं भाई इसमें SPF उतना नहीं है जितना बताया जा रहा है. So I guess in general also जो हम social media पे इतना सारा hype देखते हैं about any one particular thing, it would be better if we did our own research. It would be better if we did, if we saw how our body is reacting to a particular cosmetic or a particular medicine. Because see, in the end, I feel our body knows the best. Your body and my body is not the same. We might be anatomically same. आप में जो organs है वो मेरे में है. But then obviously the way we react to external stimuli, yeah, medicines or creams and cosmetics like this, it's going to be different. So I guess with so much misinformation and so much half information just going around in the market, it's very difficult to decipher कि भाई ये सही है, ये गलत है, या ये पूरी तरह सही नहीं है, पूरी तरह गलत नहीं है. सो आई गेस द सेफ साइड वुड बी आप खुद चेक करो, थोड़े दिन के लिए चेक करो, थोड़े दिन में कुछ होने नहीं वाला है. जमता है तो ठीक है, नहीं जमता है तो रहने दो.
Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I want to talk about what I think are the 5 things needed to actually test properly, and actually make like a system जहाँ पे we can be sure of the quality of like the testing. The 5 things I'd say, one is consistency. तो अगर आप एक बार टेस्ट करते हो और फिर आप हर बार टेस्ट नहीं करोगे तो ये कुछ मतलब तो है नहीं. And this thing I blame probably all the influencers are very guilty of this, but it's not guilty. It's that they can't. Like I can't. It's like a full-time job to test. आपको अगर एक बार टेस्ट करना है, फिर 1 महीने बाद टेस्ट करना है, 2 महीने बाद करना है, सैंपल कैसे करोगे, ये सब चीजों के लिए you need consistency. Otherwise the person is like, अच्छा ठीक है, जल्दी से इसको पास करो और फिर बाकी सब छोड़ दो. Additionally, it's easy to like influence those particular results. The second is transparency. कौन है लैब, क्यों काम करना चाहिए, सैम्पलिंग क्यों काम होना चाहिए, आपका जो सैंपल है वो रैंडमाइज्ड है, पावर्ड है. ये अगर ट्रांसपेरेंसी हमारे पास है नहीं तो और आप ये रिजल्ट्स डाल रहे हो, then I'll question it. I don't have a reason to actually believe why I should believe it. But then like if you go to the United States and they do testing or they do any sort of thing like that, वहाँ पे वो पूरा transparency देते हैं कि हमारा procedure क्या है, हम कैसे इनको ले रहे हैं, हम कैसे sample कर रहे हैं, हम कैसे वो हो रहा है. So with that government body, you can see exactly what's going on. And that's another issue with our regulators. So our regulators, जो state drug regulatory authority है, उनके पास भी consistency तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. They test basically based on complaints. अगर कोई बड़ा कंपनी है, they notice कि उनका दवा का सेल गिर रहा है, and then they're like कि देखो वहाँ पे हमारा सेल गिर रहा है मगर मार्केट में equally proliferated है, तो वो ड्रग इंस्पेक्टर के पास जाते हैं, उनको बोलते हैं कि यहाँ इनका सैंपल लो, ये probably counterfeit है. That's how we found 99% of our counterfeit cases until now. The drug inspector themselves does nothing. It's always the big company noticing their sales falling. That's happened every single time. Transparency, man, there's no transparency. They come, they take some samples, they send them off. What happened? Where was it going? Anything. ये कुछ भी नहीं होता. Knowledge, the influencers generally, जैसे आपने बोला था, they have very half knowledge sort of things. Regulators also have close to no knowledge. Most drug inspectors I've met have zero idea on how testing works, how sampling works, how anything of here works. They're babus, and that's all I can say about them. Consequences. So with influencer, if there's actually, I'd say even more consequence to an influencer testing than a regulator, because a regulator tries to keep things hush so they can extract money out of them, whereas an influencer tries to make it as loud as possible. But then it also goes into the consequence ki like, agar koi dawa bura nikla, that doesn't necessarily mean ki manufacturing mein bura nikla. It's it could also be ki wo storage mein kuch galat ho gaya. Which I say it was under the sun, it was in high humidity areas. So if you take a particular sample वहाँ पे, and then you say कि ये गलत है, ये दवा गलत है, and then you broadcast it all over, but you don't take into account these particular things, then you'll blame the manufacturer even if it's not their fault, or the marketing company even if it's not their fault. And the fifth and the most important one out of all of these, which I think is completely lacking in the Indian ecosystem, is integrity. Integrity is, mere definition pe, is what you do when no one's watching. So if you are the type ki, the moment no one's watching, you're just trying to extract as much money as possible. So why would I believe any of your things that you say? You can manipulate it 1,000 different ways. Usme kuch kar hi nahi sakte. And until you actually have a body with all 5 of these things, then you, and like a government body that has all five of these things, because you also need the power to be able to be like, okay, how many
A
batches were made,
non-corrupt governing body.
non-corrupt government body who has all five of these things. That's how you can actually be trusting कि हमारा चीज ढंग से हो रहा है. Um, yeah. So what do you think? Do you think that these are the steps? Do you have anything else you think are important to for testing?
No, you've actually perfectly summed down everything. And then, yes, in the end, it comes down to having a non-corrupt government body जो इस सारी चीजों को regulate करे. I loved how you said that there are no consequences, which is so true. Like long term consequences. जैसे मैंने पहले बोला था, most of these people who are supposed to be held responsible get away very easily. Everybody has a lot of money. So everybody gets away very easily. There is no consequences. And because there are no consequences, there is no regulation. There is no non-corrupt government body that can actually, impose rules. ना केवल counterfeited medicines के लिए, लेकिन जैसे आपने बहुत सारी बार influencers का mention किया था, there are no rules of regulation against influencers either. There is no rule that says that some person can't just get up and start talking about medicines or remotely about medicines. Obviously they cannot treat. Like there are no rules regulating the, what do you call, prachar of these half done tests, or wrong tests, as you would say. So yes, we do require somebody who would regulate all of this.
Okay. How do you think? What do you think about doctor regulation? Like, I think you have the National Medical Council, and then you
Hmm.
also got the IMA. How do you think they're going about it, and what issues do you think there are there?
See, regarding these regulations, it's everything to do with what we prescribe, how we treat a
Mm,
doctor, how we treat a patient, and
mm,
it is more to do with कौन सी illness के लिए मुझे क्या दवाई देनी चाहिए. But
mm,
as a doctor, tomorrow, if I want to go to a social platform, so this is again a regulation that is placed upon us as a doctor. Tomorrow, if I want to go on a social platform and say or talk about, suppose fever,
mm,
so I can talk about fever क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, क्या different temperatures हो सकते हैं, और आपको कब डॉक्टर के पास जाना चाहिए. I cannot tell on a social media platform कि कौन सी दवाई खानी चाहिए, because then again it comes to taking responsibility कि अगर वो दवाई से कोई allergic effect हो गया, side effects हो जाते हैं, या patient ने regulate नहीं किया वो दवाई जो 5 दिन के लिए खानी चाहिए थी, 15 दिन के लिए खा लिए. So I still, as a doctor, on a social platform, social media platform, I cannot talk about medicines or how to prescribe them. But yes, I can talk about illnesses. But then there are so many influencers I do not want to name. There are so many influencers who would, randomly pop up who do not have a proper medical degree, or who would just write doctor in front of their name, and then they were like, uh, ये दवाई तुमको इस चीज के लिए खानी चाहिए, ये ज्यादा बेटर है, या वो दवाई तुमको उस चीज के लिए खानी चाहिए, वो ज्यादा बेटर है, विदाउट एनी मेडिकल नॉलेज, विदाउट एनी पॉइंटिंग ऑफ द सोर्स. मतलब यूजुअली इफ आई हैव टू से समथिंग, मैं सोर्स को पॉइंट करूंगी, सम टेक्स्ट बुक और सम लिटरेचर जिसको मैं पॉइंट करूंगी कि नहीं, इस लिटरेचर के अकॉर्डिंग हमें ये करना चाहिए. और यदि मैं वो लिटरेचर पॉइंट नहीं कर पाऊँ, तो मैं एक वो डिस्क्लेमर दे दूंगी कि भाई वो मेरे हिसाब से आपको ऐसा करना चाहिए. सो आई स्टिल टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. So when it comes to NMC and their regulations, I guess it is everything to do with the doctors and how doctors are regulated. But then, see, I'll tell you this chain that is there, right? If when it comes to medicines, I am only writing the name. उससे पहले वो जो दवाई है वो फार्मेसी में होती है, उससे पहले वो दवाई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में होती है, उससे पहले वो दवाई देर आर लाइक डिफरेंट कंपनीज उसमें मैन्युफैक्चर की जाती है, राइट? सो द कंज्यूमर, आई एम लाइक द सेकंड लास्ट लिंक that is there. The last link will be my patient. So god forbid anything happens to my patient, again comes down to me. I am held responsible. So what I am saying over here is there should be a body, a non-corrupt body that can regulate this entire chain.
mm.
Again, doctor की गलती हो सकती है, but we also need to see the chain, right? अगर suppose
आपका
कुछ हो
आवाज
जाता है,
थोड़ा
anything happens, and a doctor is involved in it, NMC does intervene. I'm not saying it does not. It does intervene. We also have a lot of senior doctors who would help us अगर ऐसा कुछ हो जाता है. But then social media पे जो डंका बचता है वो यही बचता है कि ये पर्टिकुलर डॉक्टर ने ये गलत दवाई दी. वो पीछे कोई नहीं जाता फिर कि भाई वो दवाई कहाँ से आई. At least I personally, maybe it's my lack of knowledge, but I personally do not know any prominent body that would actually, uh, just investigate what is happening behind the scenes. उस चीज का डंका कभी क्यों नहीं बजा. Other than जो ORS वाला केस हुआ था with a pediatrician was trying so much कि जो फेक ORS वो मार्केट से निकाले जाए. That is where the companies were, pinpointed. That is where the companies were held responsible. But again, no consequences. What happened to them? सर यार 180 करोड़ का माल है, हम नहीं रख सकते तो वापस आ गए हैं with a disclaimer. So that is what I'm trying to say. Dhruv, are you there? And Dhruv is gone again.
ऐप पे अवेलेबल है, वो लैब में आपके ऑब्जर्वेशन में टेस्ट हुए हैं, हमारे ऑब्जर्वेशन में नहीं हुए हैं. हमारा कोशिश है कि हम लैब को ऑडिट करें. That's I think the कभी बना दें, but that takes a lot of capital. बहुत पैसा लगता है लैब बनाने में, and then there's a lot of regulation as well. Um, why why most of the medicines available in SayaCare are unavailable, excluding antidepressants? I think you mean including antidepressants. We generally do not sell anything that's covered under the NDPS Act. वहाँ पे बहुत, it's really prone to abuse. And you might say कि अगर मैं pharmacy में जाऊँ तो वहाँ पे भी तो abuse के prone है, true. But drug inspectors tend to focus on people who have money, and they think e-pharmacies have money, so then they'll come after you. Sorry, I think this is content mafia. So he's saying SayaCare is trying to be the body. So we are a body that tests medicine regularly. I think we do have all those traits, but we can only cover what we've tested. We can't cover anything beyond that. ऑर्डर किया कुछ दिनों से ऑफ है. कुछ मेडिसिन काफ़ी दिनों से आउट ऑफ स्टॉक है. Well, if you tell us the medicine, I can look into it. And I think Himanshu had these ones. As if doctors know branded generics, you won't be scapegoats. If that's the case, better write the innovator brand. I guess that's a question for you. Do you ever write the innovator brand, or do you just stick to the prominent brands, or do you stick to generics? What is your general approach?
Okay. So, in all of my practice, I have prescribed a lot of medications. I've had a lot of people tell me if they are working or not. So, mostly when it comes to antibiotics, I would go for generics. I
Okay.
do not write brands at all because generics work as well as branded ones. But when it comes to uh, uh, you know chronic diseases के लिए जो medicines होते हैं जैसे diabetes हो गया, hypertension हो गया, thyroid हो गया, if a person can afford, obviously I will write affordable brands unless
Okay.
I know कि वो कौन से pharmacy से लेने वाला है या कौन से source से लेने वाला है. तब because this is the thing that I always counsel a patient for कि वो कौन सा उनका source होगा जहाँ से लेने वाला है. Based on that, I will write generic or branded, but my branded ones are never very meaner. I
अच्छा.
believe, I genuinely believe that medicine is a very basic life necessity that everybody should, like it should be available to everybody.
Have you ever
Nobody,
written the
yeah,
innovator brand? मतलब
not,
कि the original one that got a patent.
uh, rarely. It's
Okay.
mostly to do with, uh, you know, I guess I'm guilty of it. It's mostly to do with a brand that is well known and I know
Mhm.
will work. So
Okay.
मैं brand के हिसाब से नहीं now, and this is also regarding most of the doctors that I know. But then as of now, I'll talk about myself.
Mhm.
If I have to prescribe a branded medicine, it would be affordable and one that I for sure know works. The the kind that I'll use on my parents also. That is what I prescribe.
Yes, this
Yeah,
other
देखो मैं
questions.
सच्ची बताऊँ तो आधे से ज्यादा टाइम ना इनोवेटिव ब्रांड के बारे में डॉक्टर्स को पता भी नहीं होता.
अच्छा.
Like if you suddenly ask me a drug और उसका आप बोल दो कि नहीं ये कब पेटेंट हुआ था, so
Mhm.
we wouldn't know so much about it, but I would very well know what the use of that drug is and how to use it and what not to, give with that drug. So that is where a doctor comes in. अगर आप ऐसे
So,
hmm,
so Dr. Shivangi, she used to work for J&J, and there she was part of the Sporanox advertising team. Sporanox is the original innovator drug for itraconazole. So they would keep going. I mean, the marketing team would go
I
around
didn't
to
know
all the
this.
doctors. Acha. It's also the most expensive itraconazole on the market by far. 100% the most expensive. I think we charge maybe 30, 40 rupees, and they charge like 400 rupees. So, yes, very, very expensive. So, I mean, their main concern was that we are the innovator brand. We've done the most amount of research. And if you want to be assured of quality, then that's us. This is
See,
one.
we
So,
can't do this. Doctors are not given percentage commission on branded generics, but may still prescribe branded generic. Uh, ooh, okay. So, I am going to be in so much trouble for answering this, but okay. So, I am going to be answering this very truthfully, okay? I am not going to say that all the doctors do this, but yes, there are some brands जो prescribe करने पे आपको there is like a particular percentage of commission that you might get, but then this is something that is very personal to the doctor and that uh, वो डॉक्टर का डिसीजन होता है कैसे इफ दे वांट टू गो विद द परसेंटेज वाला ब्रांड और नॉट एंड हेंस वो महंगा दवाई और सस्ता दवाई वाला आ जाता है सो यस देयर आर सम डॉक्टर्स who practice that, but a majority ones, again I am making myself safe, but the majority ones that I know, we don't go based on our commission. We will basically be prescribing the medicines based on whether a person can afford it and what is the quality of medications.
okay. Let's look at other ones. Explain IRB approval importance. Okay, so IRB stands for Institutional Review Board. Whenever you do a study that involves the human body, there are several other scenarios where you should be getting IRB approval. Those ones they'll go to an academic committee. So we got our academic committee through Gene Bandhu, which is an independent IRB. Or they'll assemble a host of people who are experts in your field, and they'll basically review your entire topic and tell you whether it's ethical or not ethical. And the point of that ethicalness also extends to whether the results are extrapable. It basically means कि वो result actually कुछ मतलब है, and whether it's just something that's more or less a marketing gimmick. So we are doing a study on how diabetic atta actually has how it whether it actually is a low GI index or not. Low GI index का मतलब हर खाना के साथ एक GI index होता है. वो GI index it basically determines कि आपका sugar कितना जल्दी बढ़ेगा. So if you're below, I think 60, I'm not particularly sure, 60, 50, it's low GI index, and if you're above 65, you're high GI index food. And yeah, the basic study is basically get 10, 15 people, give them like your reference samples. So for us, it's going to be I think like sugar water or glucose water, and then give like 50 grams of carbohydrates for the whatever food you're trying to test against, and then calculate their GI, the glycemic index for the foods, and then look at the relationship between the food that you got and the reference food, and that becomes the GI index. So like if I got diabetic atta khaya और मेरा glycemic load 50% से बढ़ा versus reference food से 100% बढ़ा तो मेरा glycemic index होगा 50%, so 0.5. And for this, we got IRB approval, and we will be starting this experiment and getting it done within a month. But the main point of it is now with this, we're actually legitimate in the academic community. We can actually publish the paper. Whereas lots of people, agar study karoge and you don't get the IRB approval, तो फिर वहाँ पे आपका paper is not actually admissible. It's not considered valid. Which I mean, I don't think that about like most of the no influencer is getting IRB approval. It's like a whole lot of work. Okay, let's continue here. I thought NSQ is more serious problem than spurious. I don't know. I don't know which is a bigger problem. NS non-standard quality is a big problem कि दवा काम नहीं कर रही है. Spurious is a problem कि like counterfeit है. But the funny thing is to find spurious medication जिसमें actually standard quality भी था. Which has been noted many times कि ये spurious medicine निकला, ये पूरा counterfeit था, मगर सारे basic parameters में pass किया. But undoubtedly उसका bioequivalence तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं होगा. Okay, let's continue on this. Let's go down. कोई और question पूछ रहा है? Most health supplements diplomacy. We want a video on lab testing, how you monitor, observe procedures, which are essentially. That's a good video. We will make that. Compared to branded generic ones, you guys are so effective. Thank you, sir. Lab testing process. Innovator. Okay. Yes. So we do have some tests where we don't test every single medicine for the metal and other things. We test occasionally. I do have some reports like that. So if you email us, I'll send you some of those samples. It isn't all the time that we do it. We are trying to save on cost there. As we increase our reach, we'll expand the scope of testing that we do with every single batch. The way it works is we get one large batch, we test one sample out of it, and we then sell that entire batch forward. But the cost of the testing, which can range anywhere from 3 to 12K, in some cases 20, 30, 40K. All the way, I mean, the 3, 4, 5K point ones, these are the simple ones. These are the ones that the liver doc tested. Part of why I'm really suspicious of his 20K one. But then you can also get tests for much, much more expensive. So the cost is then spread across the entire batch that we sell, right? So the larger the batch, the more tests we'll be able to conduct for it, because then the cost of the testing will be spread throughout. Will all expired medicines fail in a lab test? No, not all expired medicines fail in a lab test. Usually whenever a medicine's made, it's actually made to survive for several months after the expiry date. And they put it up early so that at least while it's not expired, if anyone tests it, it works fine. But usually, and I'm not saying consume expired medicine, I'm just talking about their manufacturing process. They will last for several months after they've expired, and some will last much longer, like years after they've expired. That being said, do not eat expired medicine. It's not safe. The reason we put that expiry is just like a safeguard. It's just we'll put that. Is UPLC significantly superior than HPLC? If yes, why IAL still uses HPLC? I do not know enough about what a UPLC is. Pressure liquid chromatography, but what does the U stand for? Can there be absolutely certainty that a medical research paper is not made up one? Usually the only way to do this, do you want to talk about this? I think you have a comment.
Okay. So I feel that there can be, as long as I know, as long as I am concerned, and whatever medical research paper I have read and seen being written, I haven't assisted in any, unfortunately. Nothing is made up, because then you always need to pinpoint your source. You need to mention your source, and if there is a study that you've done, you need to publish the process of the study, the outcome of the study, and all the possibilities that were there, including the kind of samples that were taken for studies. And this is not just for medicines, but it is also for the cohort study or the people study that we basically do. So yes, everything needs to be published. Everything needs to be transparent. So a medical research paper would be a very reliable source of information, according to me.
Well, I mean, I would wait for it to be published first, and then I'd
Yeah,
also look
published
at
one,
the
first published one. Yes.
yeah, because then a lot gets stuck in review, and then I'd also look at the journal. There are lots of journals out there that will just you pay them a certain amount and they'll publish your paper, no questions asked. So I'd take that particular check on there as well. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to mention there on academic research.
So many new things I'm getting to know. So many loopholes.
Why Ayurvedic medicines are not available in SayaCare? Well, with Ayurvedic medicine, we don't know how to test it properly. As to the efficacy of Ayurvedic medicine, I don't really want to speak to that. I'm sure that some are good, some are bad. But in terms of like assuring quality, it's pretty hard. There have been many cases where Ayurvedic medicine has been contaminated with mercury. It's been contaminated with other things. And I think recently, a week ago, there was a report coming out that a bunch of Ayurvedic medicine, they didn't even have the ingredients that were listed in them. So that's what we consider substandard in the allopathic testing community. Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeshwari. Do you have any closing remarks?
Um, no, I really loved this session. I really loved it. I got to know a lot of things. Oh my God, so many loopholes I got to know. Like I thought after such a long practice, I would be aware, but then you did make me aware of a lot of things that were going behind the scenes. And thank you so much for giving me a platform to put my opinions on.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for having me. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Okay. Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.